Amid the usual Trump reality show in Washington this week, it would be easy to miss what is happening in China. But it is huge and consequential. China is making the most significant change to its political system in 35 years. What impact will this have on China and the world? That's the question every policymaker, business executive, and investor should be asking. In 1982, the Chinese Communist Party wrote into the country's constitution that its president and vice president could serve no more than 2 consecutive terms. This made China unique, a dictatorship with term limits. In most authoritarian regimes, the ruler accumulates power and over the years becomes more arrogant, corrupt, and unaccountable. This wasn't possible in the Chinese system, which limited any individual's power and focused instead on the collective, the party. China's unique model also produced an economic miracle. The country has had 3 decades of merit-based selection and promotion within the Communist Party, wise long-range planning, and smart pro-growth economic policies. Since 1978, China's GDP has grown at an astounding average annual rate of almost 10%, which the World Bank calls the fastest sustained expansion by a major economy in history. In addition, for decades, China seemed to be getting more institutionalized politically. Deng Xiaoping had ruled as a supreme leader, wielding power more from behind the scenes than from any of the offices he held. His successor, Jiang Zemin, held all the key posts when he was in power, and after his 2 terms as president, he did continue to lead the Central Military Commission for 2 more years, and even after that, he remained influential informally. Then when Jiang's successor, Hu Jintao, finished his 2 terms as president, he simultaneously relinquished the top military position and lost almost all his power at once. But that trend has now been turned on its head. If term limits are abolished, which is now almost certain, Xi Jinping could stay China's president, general secretary of the Communist Party, and chairman of the Central Military Commission for the rest of his life. China is eliminating perhaps the central restraint in a political system that provides staggering amounts of power to the country's leaders. What will that do over time to the ambitions and appetites of leaders? Power tends to corrupt, Lord Acton famously wrote in 1887, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Perhaps China will avoid this tendency, but it has been widespread throughout history. China under Xi has also become more ambitious internationally. It is now the world's 2nd largest economy, the 3rd largest funder of the United Nations, and the provider of more peacekeepers than the other 4 Permanent Security Council members combined. The country has been bulking up its military, while it has been devoting significant resources to far-flung cultural arms like Confucius Institutes. It has announced loans and investment spending, the Belt and Road Initiative, that will be around 10 times the size of the Marshall Plan, by some estimates. It is determined to lead the world in fields like solar and wind power, electric cars, and artificial intelligence. Chinese scholars say it is now clear that China is entering a new era with a new system. Since the Communist Party took power in 1949, it had roughly 30 years of Mao Zedong's rule. That was followed by roughly 30 years of Deng Xiaoping and his system. It is now clear that we are in the 3rd era, which might be 30 years of Xi Jinping. Is anybody in Washington paying attention?